At the risk of not trying to contradict myself too much, I just want to say right here and now that I can watch these movies individually and get enjoyment out of them. The score for 2018 I really like. The kills in Halloween Kills are really fun. And I appreciate going in a much different direction for Halloween Ends. But I want to cap off what my thoughts are on the Blumhouse trilogy. And what I may say here might surprise you. After talking with my buddy Garrett on his channel about the timelines and going over the Blumhouse timeline, I kind of surprised myself with how critical I was. And I figured if there's one thing I've learned being on YouTube for a decade now, it's to just be honest with the audience and share your thoughts, because whether you agree or disagree, you'll have more respect for me if I'm honest with you or than if I just BS you and try to see which way the wind's blowing to give my opinion on. When you look at these films as a whole now, I'm just left somewhat baffled with the storytelling aspects of it. You know, just to start with 2018, I remember really wanting to like that movie, but telling myself, this just doesn't seem realistic. That she's the Tomb Raider after the one night, and he's locked up? He's locked up. He's not missing. He's locked up. And it's not necessarily even a situation where we can say, no, this is fine, we can believe this, because we already had a movie that gives us the alternative. And whether you like H2O or not, I think most people kind of agree that it just is more realistic that she's living a troubled, somewhat alcoholic life, but she's at least working, eating and sleeping on a regular schedule, relatively. And they were even brother and sister. Taking away the brother and sister aspect, I will never be convinced that it was nothing more than just to appease John Carpenter, in a sense. Because if you wanted to make yourself different, then why even have Laurie Strode in the movies to begin with? You could argue maybe the movies wouldn't have been as successful, but to just not make them brother and sister, that's so embedded in the world of Halloween, and they didn't do enough to make it different. Why not show what Laurie's childhood was like, for instance? Show what Michael's childhood was like, for instance, to make it known, no, they are not related at all. And Halloween Kills, she makes it seem so personal, I had to keep reminding myself, no, they're not brother and sister. But the things that Laurie Strode, the character, was saying just made it seem like they were almost. To the point that where I thought in Halloween Ends there could have been a twist where we found out they were. And what about the questions we got? The radio tower. That's all we kept hearing about. What was so important about it? Why did he stare out the window? That was brought up to the audience numerous times in Kills. Staring out the window. Staring out the window. It's mentioned. Why? We never got an answer to that. I'm just somewhat baffled that the storytelling for this, they feel like three separate entities, not a trilogy. And when you look at Halloween Ends, again, I don't want to say this too much to make it sound like I'm backing off of my thoughts right here. I can watch these movies individually and enjoy them. But together, it's like they're all three different shapes, and they don't go together. You know the expression, you can't put a square peg in a round hole? It's like you've got a circle, a triangle, and then a square. None of them, they almost feel forced different. And it almost feels like David Gordon Green made films based on the criticisms from the previous ones. And if that's the case, shame on you. Tell your story that you had intended. Screw the critics, screw the reviews. You're in charge. Make the movies that you saw fit. And I almost wonder with Halloween Ends, would it have been less of a pain factor for the hardcore fans if Corey had just assumed the role of Michael, as opposed to getting Michael back for 5 minutes and minimalizing all the storytelling, in a sense, from Halloween Kills? Halloween Kills is such about Laurie and Michael, the entire film, that to just have it be a throwaway 5-minute fight at the end just seems very anticlimactic. My thing was I wanted Corey to assume the role of Myers. If you're going to say that the town of Haddonfield has a core of evil, that it's going to invade somebody, then do it. You know, I don't like to get involved in the mudslinging of the genre of the Halloween franchise, because there's no doubt that this movie was controversial. Halloween Ends when it came out. And I do not like getting involved calling Halloween fans toxic, or I hate that word. When people say toxicity, all I think of is the System of a Down song anyway. I hate that word because that's like the only word you've seen on the internet, toxicity. Oh my God, stop. That's a System of a Down song. It's a good one too. But I saw a lot of fans that were not necessarily just so upset that Halloween Kills took a different path, but really that the 3 films don't really tell a story. Look at the first 6 movies. Part 6, the writer was predicated on answering the questions of Part 5. The Man in Black. They told the story. Those first 6 films, with the exception of 3, of course, they told the story. That's what makes the marathon so fun when you watch these movies. And Halloween Kills, watching them as a trio, I just feel like there's more questions than answers. Maybe it's all going over my head. Maybe I'm thinking too hard about it. Or maybe despite the fact that I enjoy watching the films, they don't feel like a true story to me. I'll leave it off with this. If I could hit the reset button and start this whole Blumhouse thing over again, would I hit it? Let's just put it like this. When it comes to Blumhouse, I do hope that Halloween Ends is in fact the end for them. I don't want this to be the end for the franchise, but for Blumhouse, I think it's time for Michael to move on. So, she's very interesting, isn't it? Anyway, this is the last I'm going to talk about the Blumhouse trilogy for a while. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I really do anticipate hearing your thoughts on this. Are you the same way? Can you enjoy these movies but feel like they don't tell a great story? Let me know. Man, oh man. Thank you to all my supporters on Patreon. To get behind-the-scenes photos, videos, and music, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month.